Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Story Podcast. Today's episode is a little special because we're talking about something I think so many people quietly struggle with. You know those moments when your mind feels full of thoughts, ideas, emotions, questions, but none of it feels clear? Like everything is there, but it's all floating around with nowhere to land? If that sounds familiar, then today's conversation is for you. Because I'm joined by someone who created something beautiful out of that exact struggle. She created a journal called The Thought Connector, and today we're going to talk about how scattered thoughts can become clarity, creativity, and even direction if we learn how to catch them. So first of all, welcome. I'm really happy you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here too. And honestly, I love that you started there because that feeling of having a full mind but no clear direction, that is exactly what led me to create this journal.
Yes, and I think so many people will connect with that immediately. Because when you say scattered thoughts, I feel like people know that feeling in their body. Not just mentally, but emotionally too. So let's start there. What did that look like for you personally?
For me, it looked like having thoughts all the time, but rarely at the right time. Ideas would come when I was walking around the house, cleaning, making tea, lying in bed at night, doing something ordinary. And they wouldn't arrive in neat little sentences either. They would come as pieces. A thought about something I wanted to create, a feeling I didn't fully understand yet, a question about my life, a line I wanted to remember, a business idea, a podcast topic, a small realization about myself. And every time that happened, I felt like there is something here, something important. But I didn't always know what to do with it.
Hmm, that really hits something. Because I think a lot of people assume ideas come in this clear, polished form. But in real life, they usually don't. They come messy.
Exactly. Messy is the word. And for a long time, I think I was waiting for my thoughts to become clear before I treated them like they mattered. I thought, when this becomes a better idea, then I'll write it down. Or let me wait until I understand it more. Or this is too random, this is not a real idea yet. And that habit kept me stuck more than I realized. Because what I was really doing was dismissing the early stage of my own thinking.
Wow, that's such an important point. You weren't actually lacking ideas, you were losing them before they had a chance to grow.
Yes, exactly that. And I think overthinking played a big role too. Perfectionism too. Because perfectionism doesn't always look like having everything beautifully organized. Sometimes it looks like delay. Sometimes it looks like waiting. Sometimes it looks like telling yourself that a thought is not worth keeping unless it already sounds impressive. And that's a very quiet way people stay stuck.
That is so true. Because from the outside, it can look like someone is just thinking carefully. But inside, they may actually be trapped in hesitation.
Yes, and that was me for a long time. I kept thinking I needed a better idea, a clearer idea, something more complete. But the breakthrough for me came when I realized something very simple. I didn't need more ideas. I needed to start connecting the ones I already had.
Say that again.
I didn't need more ideas. I needed to start connecting the ones I already had. Because once I began to see that one random thought might connect to something I felt last week, or something I heard in a conversation, or something I wrote down 2 days ago, everything changed. I stopped seeing my mind as all over the place. I started seeing it as full of pieces. And pieces can become something if you give them a place to meet.
That's beautiful. A place for pieces to meet. Honestly, that sounds like the heart of the journal right there. So tell us about that moment. When did you realize, I need to make something from this?
It came from personal need first. I wanted something simple that could help me catch my thoughts before they disappeared, but also help me do more than just collect them. Because I've had blank notebooks before. I've written random notes before. I've saved little thoughts before. But what I needed was not just storage. I needed direction. I needed a gentle process. I needed a way to look at my thoughts and ask, what is this showing me? That's where the thought connector came from.
And I love that name so much because it feels active. Not just a thought journal, not just a notebook, but a connector. So what makes it different?
What makes it different is that it doesn't just give you empty space and expect you to figure everything out on your own. It gently guides you. It helps you dump the thought first, without pressure. Then it invites you to look at what inspired that thought. Was it a conversation, a memory, a hard day, a book, a moment of frustration, a quiet realization? And then comes the question that changed so much for me. What does this connect to? That question is everything. Because now the thought is not just sitting there alone. Now it begins to open up. Now it becomes part of a pattern, part of a direction, part of a bigger picture.
Yes, I can feel how powerful that is. Because sometimes the problem is not that people have nothing meaningful inside them, it's that everything is separated. Nothing is talking to each other.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Your ideas are there, your emotions are there, your insights are there, but they need space to connect. And I wanted this journal to make that process feel simple, not heavy. You don't need to sit down for an hour and have a life changing revelation every morning. Sometimes 5 minutes is enough. Sometimes just writing one thought and asking one honest question is enough to begin.
That's actually something I really want to ask you about. Because I think when people hear journal, some of them immediately feel pressure. They think, I don't have time, or I'm not consistent, or I don't know what to write. So, how do you see this journal fitting into real life?
Very gently. That's important to me. This journal is not meant to become another thing that makes you feel behind. It's meant to support you. You can use it in 5 to 10 minutes a day. You can use it after a long day when your mind feels crowded. You can use it in the morning when something is sitting on your heart. You can use it when you suddenly have an idea and you don't want to lose it. And you don't need to sound wise or poetic or organized. You just need to be honest. That's enough.
I really love that because the way you describe it, it feels like less of a performance and more of a practice of noticing.
Yes, that's exactly how I see it. A practice of noticing, a practice of catching what passes through your mind before it disappears, and then slowly learning to trust that even small thoughts matter. Because sometimes what looks random really isn't random. Sometimes it's the beginning of a pattern, the beginning of a truth, the beginning of an idea that is trying to form.
Did that happen for you personally? Did using this process actually shape the things you were creating?
Absolutely. There were podcast topics that began as tiny fragments, business ideas that didn't arrive as full plans, just little nudges, personal insights that only became clear after I started noticing what kept repeating. And that's another thing this journal helped me with: repetition. When a thought returns again and again, that means something. When a question keeps following you, that means something. When a feeling keeps coming back in different forms, that means something. And if you don't have a place to notice that, you might miss what your own mind is trying to tell you.
That is such a powerful idea because I think many people assume clarity is supposed to arrive all at once, like a lightning bolt. But what you're describing is quieter than that, more layered.
Yes, much quieter. For me, clarity often does not come like a spotlight. It comes like dots, little dots. And later, when I look back, I realize, oh, these things belong together. That's why I love this whole idea of connecting thoughts, because so much of life is like that. We think we're lost because we only see pieces. But sometimes pieces are not proof of confusion. Sometimes they're the beginning of a map.
Hmm, that line is so beautiful. Sometimes pieces are not proof of confusion. Sometimes they're the beginning of a map. I think someone listening really needs to hear that today. So for the person who feels mentally crowded right now, for the person who has so many thoughts but no real clarity, what would you gently tell them to do today?
I would say this: the next time a random thought comes, don't dismiss it too quickly. Don't tell yourself it doesn't matter. Don't wait for it to become more polished. Write it down, even if it's short, even if it's messy, even if it doesn't make complete sense yet. Write it down and then ask, what does this connect to? Does it connect to a feeling you've had lately? Does it connect to something you've been wanting to do? Does it connect to a fear, a hope, a memory, a problem you've been trying to solve? That one question can open so much because it changes the thought from something passing into something revealing.
Yes, and I think that's the part people miss. We're so used to letting thoughts pass through us. But not every thought deserves to be ignored. Some thoughts are invitations.
Exactly. And I really believe that. Not every thought, of course, but some of them are carrying something important. And if you make space for them, you start building a deeper relationship with your own inner life. You start becoming someone who notices, someone who listens, someone who sees meaning where you once saw mess.
That is such a healing thing, honestly, because there's so much shame people carry around feeling too scattered or too all over the place. And what I'm hearing from you is maybe you're not broken. Maybe you just need a better way to gather your thoughts.
Yes, that's exactly what I hope people feel. Not broken, not behind, not failing, just ready for a gentler process. Ready to stop waiting for perfect clarity and start working with what is already there. Because your thoughts matter, your ideas matter, your questions matter, and they deserve somewhere to land.
And that feels like the perfect place to ask this. Where can people find the Thought Connector?
You can find the Thought Connector through the link in the description on Etsy. I created it for people who want more clarity, more connection, and a simple daily way to turn mental noise into something meaningful. So if that speaks to you, it's there for you.
Beautiful. Before we close, I'd love for you to leave listeners with one final thought, something gentle, something they can carry with them after this episode ends.
I'd say this: you do not need to have everything figured out before you begin. You do not need a perfect idea before you write. You do not need complete clarity before you take your thoughts seriously. Sometimes your only job is to notice, to catch the thought, to keep the thread, to trust that what feels small today may become meaningful tomorrow. Your ideas matter, but they need space to connect. So don't wait for everything to make sense all at once. Start connecting the dots today.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for being here and for creating something so thoughtful and needed.
Thank you. This was really special.
And to everyone listening, if this conversation stayed with you, if it gave language to something you've been feeling, I hope you'll share it with someone else who might need it too. Take care of your mind, take care of your ideas. And we'll see you in the next episode of English Story Podcast.